And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Aloha to all of my Rowdies fans out there in the world. This is James Knowles coming at you from RBLR Sports. I am doing the RBLR Rowdy Show tonight. We are not doing anything in Hawaii, but we do have a special guest on with us. No more history because we are getting too close to the actual start of the season. So we are just going to jump right in with Leo on tonight, my usual and fabulous co-host. How you doing tonight?
I'm gonna be real with you, James. I was having an okay day, but now that you called me fabulous, I feel like my morale just boosted like 100 times more. But overall, I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
You know, not too bad. As I said, we are done with the history series, but we have not discussed any new signings for the Rowdies this year, and there are a couple of really interesting people to look at. So this is what we're going to do today. And as I said, we do have a guest on to help us get through that conversation and some talk about the preseason as well. So without any further ado, from the unused substitutes coming on today to help us out, it's Dan Endonino. Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's a bit weird doing two Rowdies pods, guesting, I guess you could say, on two Rowdies pods this week. But I love it. I love what you guys do, and I'm glad you guys invited me on. Thank you.
Well, we have been trying to, get you guys on here because I've been a fan since before RBLR Sports even, got going on the Rowdy side, and I've been listening to you guys all that time and meeting you all at the game. The games over the season, you were all very, very gracious and, good people to be around to get hyped up for the atmosphere that we have. So, we're obviously very happy to have you on, and I mean that sincerely. It was really cool when I got to meet you guys at the stadium those times that I did. But before we get into our preseason, I just want to quickly take a moment to say, please, if you can, follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at RBLR Sports. And please like and subscribe to our podcast on all major podcast platforms. And now we are going to get into the first topic. Before we get into our new signings, there were two preseason games that we had this past week. One was Wednesday night, a 6-2 win at USF, and one was Saturday night, a 2-1 win in Jacksonville against the University of North Florida. Now, we don't have a ton of information for the one at UNF, so we actually do, though, have someone who went to see the game at USF. And Dan, you were there. We have some starting lineups to get through and some goals to get through. But tell me, what were your overall thoughts on the game?
It was a good preseason run out more than anything. They looked good. There's some question marks I have still, but a lot of it is the combinations probably aren't right. So we don't have a full idea. I think this coming Saturday, the 5th, when it's open to season ticket holders, we'll probably see a bit more. But I think it was a lot of getting people into shape. A lot of people who played 30 against Orlando played 60 against USF. But there was goals, and there were some things Neil, you could definitely see, was trying to work on. I think we finished the game with 10 men. He just pulled Harris off and just let it roll as a drill, like a 10-man drill. But it was good. I think the boys are close to ready, but there's some kinks, in my opinion, that still need to be worked out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Leo, if you can, get us through the goals that were scored for the Rowdies and the starting 11, the line change, all that stuff, and then we're going to move into your thoughts and, expand upon what Dan said as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, the goals were scored by Leo Fernandez. I believe he scored 2 goals. He got himself a brace on the night, and there was an own goal, but it was caused by Areman, who's just been having a fantastic preseason so far. A lot of fans should be excited for him, with the new season upcoming very, very soon. Dayon Harris, Sebastian Dalgard, and Lucky Kasana also got their own goals. So it's really great to see, players who've been here for a while to get on the score sheet preseason. Like you said, Dan, they're starting to get in a rhythm because, the season's going to be here really, really soon. But in regards to the starting XI, the goalie we have here is Cochran, who we know was recently signed on loan, I believe, giving Ryko, Ryko's been in the net past preseason games, but this time he wasn't. The back line, we had Scarlett, Mel, and Antley, something we've seen a little bit more, Antley being more operated in one of those back three more than he was usually as a right wing back in regards to, if we're speaking about last season. And in the midfield, we had Deon Harris, Etu, Ekra, and Areman. And the front three was Dos Santos, Leo Fernandez, and Tejada. I believe the formation was a 3-4-3. Dan, if I'm wrong, just feel free to interrupt me. And then in the 61st minute, there was a lineup change. Not too much of a lineup change, but we've seen Guillen come in for Antley in the back. Scarlett and Mel kept their places after that 61st minute. And then I believe we've seen White and Hilton come in for Etu and Ekra. And then Dalgard also came in for Areman. And then up top, we've seen the complete change of the front three. It was Lakim Kosana, Greg came in, and Lacava also came in. So little rotation there for Neo to experiment with the side. I mean, when you be a team 6-2, I feel like you have every single right to experiment your side no matter what. But besides that, at least my initial thoughts of it was, we go to USF, we win 6-2. I think to me, just finding ways for Neo to see which players he could just throw them in, whether to play a full game or 30 minutes, to see how quickly they can adapt to a situation, if they can stay focused by holding a big lead, because we've seen games last season where we've had big leads, whether it's like 5-0, 6-0, and I think when we're winning 6-2, Neil's probably thinking, let me throw this guy in here, see if he still has a mentality of keeping on going, even though if it's preseason. But most importantly, I think they're just starting to gel more and more as preseason games keep on coming. And I think today USF is college team, not in a professional level quite yet, but overall, I think it's a good result. It's a good way to boost up that morale, because the season is approaching very, very soon. And as long as you see goals from players who are starters, that's always a good thing, never a bad thing. But I think there's definitely a lot more pros to take away from here. And from what I've seen on social media and stuff like that, I can't really put away too many cons or anything like that.
Yeah, I tend to agree from, again, just the outside perspective, because we weren't actually at the game, that it's good to see, as you said, the scoring being run up there, even if it is against a college team. You do kind of expect that with these guys who are obviously professionals, and they're trying to get their fitness back. So it seems like they do at least have the fitness to, go and run up this game in the way that they did. And to get back to where we started on this particular section, Dan, you said you were at the game and you said that you have some more thoughts. So if you could expand upon the issues that you thought you might have seen, and then we'll briefly cover the game against UNF before we get into our main segment.
I would just like to say it was funny because obviously free seating, it wasn't very, it wasn't packed. So I was right behind the bench, like probably almost from me to almost my computer here, which is not a good desk, was the coaches. And Neil started the game very happy, was encouraging his players. And I think it was about like the 10th minute, the cursing started, the yelling started, the criticizing started. And rightfully so. The back line was very quiet in that first half. Antley was playing out of position in the sense that he's usually the right center back or right wing back, like we saw him play last year. They had him on the left, but Timmy Mel was not very vocal. Scarlett was even a little quiet, which I found surprising, but that was one of Neil's biggest things was talk, communicate. And you could definitely tell that was the halftime talk, because they all came out at halftime and it was a much different sounding game. They were very, very vocal. Also, the defense is a worry. I know it's partly exacerbated because we lost Boris Lasso, obviously, this offseason. And Timmy is kind of a new guy and still trying to fit in, so I don't want to harp on him too much, like personally. I think he needs to settle in a little bit more. And Neil has done wonders with center back, so I'm not fully concerned. But I think if we're going to start somebody back there, it has to be Guillen, Antley, and Scarlett to start the season, at least in my opinion. But this is also going off one preseason game, and the midfield in front of Neil was not in like that back three, isn't the starting midfield. At least Hilton wasn't in. So everything again is taken lightly, but these are just impressions from one game that I watched. But I think that like Areman did great. Lacava's has had a great preseason. Dayon Harris looks next level. I think last year he was held back by some injuries, but this season he's just seems on a mission. That was very good. Leo looks like Leo. It was amazing. Like he just looked like he hasn't missed a beat. Like it was like mid-season form already. Granted, again, it's USF, so I would hope so. But my worry and my biggest takeaway was this defense is going to need some help. Either we're going to have to go to like early, I would say maybe like 2014, 2015 Liverpool or early Klopp Liverpool, where it was just outscore the opponent and just chaos at the back. That might have to be the strategy this year. I don't know, but I don't think so. I think Neil will have it settled down pretty quick, but there will be some decisions on that back line.
Dan, one more quick question for you based on what you saw at USF. Do you think that there is anybody who might be playing their way into the starting 11 in a position that we might not have, guessed based on what we've seen as people who at this point, I think us and the vast majority of listeners probably won't have seen any preseason anything?
I think if the one that wouldn't surprise me is Jake Lacava playing as a 10. I think him slotting in behind either 2 or 3 forwards would not shock me at all. I know Leo here said that it was a 3-4-3, and that's how it lined up at USF. There was a lot of movement up top where sometimes Dos Santos would drop behind and let Tejada and Fernandez play, and then sometimes Leo would drop, and then sometimes there's a lot of rotation on sides and who was taking that role. But Lacava has mostly been playing the 10 from what I've heard in preseason. I would not be shocked if that's where he slots on that opening game against Birmingham.
Dan, I got a quick question real quick. Yeah, so with obviously with Jake Areman coming in, and he's operating the spot that usually Leo Fernandez takes up on a left wing back spot. With Fernandez being pushed up higher on the field as more as a casual left winger more than a left wing back. Have you seen that working more for him? I mean, you've already said that he's already in midseason form, but in preseason, it is against USF. But have you seen that, working, benefiting both Fernandez and also Areman?
Yeah, I think it works a lot for Leo. Freeing him of those defensive duties allows him to cut inside more and be a little bit more attack-minded. And Areman was great. He was getting the balls in. He was making the right runs. The link up was getting there. You can tell it's still in the early stages of like a relationship per se, but there was a lot of good link play there. And I personally, I hope that's how it ends up working in the regular season with Areman there and Leo playing more of an attack-minded player because that's his skill set. Also, I think he just turned 30, so maybe save his legs over the course of a season. As somebody who's 37, 30 is not old, but I also understand when you're playing a bunch of kids, it happens. So I would like to see Leo playing up top as like that left wing or the third striker.
Yeah.
Well, that will probably cover us for the USF game. As I said, we don't have a ton to go off of for the UNF game. There were a couple of tweets from someone that our producer found that I believe was actually just a student who was able to attend, but nothing official from the Rowdies to tell us, who was out there or that kind of stuff. We do know that Sebastian Guinzotti and Lawrence White got the goals. Not too bad there. And there will be one more preseason game that will be happening this Saturday night against South Georgia Tormenta, and that will be something that all season ticket holders can attend. And, they should be able to have a pretty fun time from everything that has been put out about the game. I hope that there is a lot of good stories and everything that comes out of this. But to get us into our main segment, we have to talk about all of the new signings that we have coming up for this year. There have been a little bit of turnover in terms of the players who actually started for the Rowdies. Obviously, most people are aware that Forrest Lasso and Evan Lauro will not be back this season, and those are players that we need to replace. So hopefully within this group, we have somebody to do that. But if not, then, we still do have at least a couple of depth pieces that we need to cover for the time being. So we are going to go in order of their number on the roster and work our way down through that. And we're going to get, opinions from Leo, myself, and Dan for all of these guys. So let's just start with the goalkeeper, CJ Cochran, who is here on loan from OKC Energy. That's Oklahoma City Energy, while they are on hiatus, hopefully for only a year. And for this one, I will start with you, Leo. We are possibly looking at CJ Cochran as a starter or a backup to Raiko Rosarena. We don't have, a ton to go off of as we didn't play Oklahoma City a lot last year. I don't know how much Oklahoma City you actually got personally. I did not catch a ton. I will definitely say that. But, based on what we know, with all that caveated, what do you think about CJ Cochran and, our prospects in that?
Well, when I hear CJ Cochran, the first thing I think of is experience. He's an experienced keeper in the United Soccer League. Obviously, like you said, Oklahoma City won't be participating in the league this season. Hopefully, it's only a 1-year thing. But he is a veteran. He has experience. He's 30 years old. He's played over 100 matches as a professional, if I remember that correctly. But I think it's great competition for Raiko Arozarena, because I honestly don't know who's going to start yet. But going by the preseason matches, we have seen Raiko, spending more time in goal than Cochran. That's probably because Raiko's been here longer than he has, and Cochran just joined not too long ago. But like I said, he has experience. He's someone that's very reliable. He knows the league very well. He's someone that could. And we got to remember with Forrest Lasso gone, he was really that leader and that captain back there. You can say the same for Evan Laura, but now both of those players are gone now. So you bring in that experience back there. He's someone that could help control that back line, help read the game. I'm not sure if he's good with his feet, because we know we've seen Evan Laura, who that wasn't really his main skill set, but he had to learn how to adapt to that game, playing under the system of Neil Collins, and how and basically how the overall game of soccer is changing these days. But I don't really know how good he is with his feet. But if he's someone who's been in this league for this long, I'm pretty sure he had to make good saves here and there, be a reliable goalkeeper. So with all that being said, I feel like he's a great addition to the team. But again, I'm not sure who's going to get the starting role. But I think it's great to have that experience and leadership on your roster.
So, Dan, you actually have seen probably the most between all of us for CJ Cochran, having actually caught him at this USF game. Did you see anything there that stood out one way or another? Or maybe you have seen more of him from previous seasons and actually have a bit better of a background to go on?
I haven't seen him too much over the years. Being a Western Conference team where they are, I haven't paid too much attention. But seeing him at USF, he was not afraid to come out of the box, use his head, was leading a bit from back there. Like Leo was saying, he's a veteran keeper that's been around. He's been starting for a while. So that competition in that is great. Like we don't know actually for once who's going to be the starting keeper. From what I've seen and heard from prior about Raiko Rosarena is he's really good with his feet. He's a solid shot stopper. So I don't know how Cochran can actually compete there and what happens in training. So, but I think I'm personally leaning. It's a toss up because Neil can go either way on what he wants. Because I have a feeling there might be some kind of system and tactical tweaks with these new guys, losing Loro and Forrest as we have. So it depends exactly what he's looking for out of the keeper. But obviously Neil saw some attributes in Cochran that he wants and likes. So I won't doubt him starting him.
Now, one more question for you on CJ Cochran, and then we'll move on. But Dan, do you think there's any chance that we might see a system of rotation in net? Now, that's not very common in soccer for anyone who is, more frequently watching hockey or that kind of stuff. But usually there's a starter, and then the backup will get in for maybe cup games or stuff like that, which we can certainly see this year with the Open Cup returning. But I guess it is a possibility. Is that something that you think we might see out there, or probably not, just pure speculation on our part right now?
I mean, anything's possible. I'd be shocked because Neil likes to ride the hot hand. If things aren't going right, he might make that switch pretty quickly. He's not one to sit on his hands if a change can be made. And I think that like last year, it was probably going to happen when we were in that rocky 3-4 game period. But with Loro and Raiko, but then circumstances switched out for Raiko. So I don't think it'll be a thing where it's like looking at who our opponent is and picking a keeper on that. I think Neil will just ride the hot hand and go with his gut. So I think it'll be whoever's the starter. Might not start the second week, depending how it goes, and Neil might throw something else out there. But I really think it'll be a steady keeper unless we hit a rough patch.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair based on what we've seen so far. So, all right, that will do it for CJ Cochran. And I think that our next player, based on the numbers in the roster, is midfielder Junior Eto. His full name is Brun Allergen Eto. So I don't think he goes by that with everybody out on the field. And he mostly, as far as I've seen, has gone by Junior. And we signed him from Charlotte Independence after they self-relegated. He is a midfielder, and I think that, he is probably going to help shore up our at least our depth there, because he wasn't necessarily the regular starter at Charlotte. So we've seen a lot more of him, I would say, than anybody from Oklahoma City. Dan, I'll let you start this one. How do you see Junior Eto coming into this team, and what do you see of him in terms of his spot on the roster?
My gut says he's going to be the backup to Lewis Hilton as more of a holding role there. I think he can go forward and fill in that 10 spot if need be. But he's, from what I saw against USF, and that was only his second preseason game, I believe, he is really good on the ball, is not afraid to push forward, can win the ball cleanly. I was impressed because he didn't have too many minutes, I don't think, in Charlotte this past year, but he was a solid piece in that first half. I think the only thing stopping him from starting is the fact that Lewis Hilton exists. Lewis is just, you can't argue with what he's done last year, and God forbid, at least now he can get a rest. I think that poor man ran so much last year, but I think that's where Atu will stay, is playing that holding midfield role in tandem with Hilton.
Yeah, and I think, Dan, you run the unofficial Hilton fan club for this team, but you brought me around on him towards the end of the season too.
He's underrated, the most underrated player on that roster, and that's probably a good thing. So nobody's coming in and making too many offers on him.
Yeah, I can
so,
only.
I'll turn it over to you, Leo. Now.
Yeah, I can only agree and echo what Dan was saying. In regards to Junior Eto, I feel like he's just someone that's going to be there in case Lewis Hilton needs a rest, or someone else in the center mid, maybe Lawrence White as well, needs a rest, or have a knock. You have someone who could be reliable and give you that an efficient performance whenever he's caught up upon. And you mentioned it earlier, James, the return of the U.S. Open Cup is back, so that interferes with the big game on the weekend or something like that. He's someone that you could rely on to come in and shore up that defensive midfield part of the game. But besides that, I don't see him really starting too much unless something, God forbid, something happens to Lewis Hilton to where he has to spend time on the sidelines, or he could be someone you sub in to where you're trying to secure a lead. If you're winning 1-0, 2-1, whatever the case may be, if you're securing a lead, you put him in to make sure you see the game out. But besides that, I don't really see him starting too much. But I do think it's a solid option to have on your roster and on your bench.
Yeah, and I think this is a case of us benefiting from, I guess, the somewhat demise of Charlotte Independence here. They are, based on all sorts of things going on. There's a new MLS team in Charlotte, North Carolina. There is some trouble with the ownership for the Charlotte Independence. I guess self-relegation was what they thought was the best option. And yeah, like I said, we benefit from that. And we benefit in the next player that I'm going to name. This is our number 8 on the roster, midfielder Jake Areman, who I'll take a little bit of time to talk about this one myself here. Jake Areman is one of the players that I am most excited about personally. He can play as a left wing back. based on what we saw for Charlotte Independence, or based on where he has played quite a bit in the preseason, he can also play as a central midfielder. And I believe that would probably be more on the attacking side than, staying at home the way Lewis Hilton might. But yeah, I thought that he was one of the Charlotte's most dangerous players when we went up against them. And I think that him coming over here not only allows us to obviously get the talent that is Jake Areman, but it does free up some players, including Leo Fernandez, who might end up stepping forward if what I am envisioning ever comes to pass. So we will go back to Leo to start this one on Jake Areman. And Leo, give me your thoughts based on what you saw, based on anything you've read about him. What do you see for our new midfielder here?
Yeah, I could just say I'm excited for many reasons. One being that he's on our side. I remember last season going against Charlotte Independence. He was someone that was very annoying to play against because Charlotte, they I believe they won some games against us, and he was in that team. But he's only 25 years old. He's still pretty young. We're still about to reach that prime age. But look what he's done with preseason already. He looks like he's fitting well to the team. He's nailing down the instructions that Neo is giving him. He's doing really good on that left wing back role, which, not only does that benefit Neo that he has a solid option in that position, but now you have Leo Fernandez, who, as Dan said earlier in the show, he's 30, his legs might be getting tired, who knows? But now you put him in a more attacking position to where he might not have to drop back as much. And, you just add another threat up there with Seba and Duba, who, are already a threat just with them two up there. But now you have Leo, who just stays up there. It just, it's an all-around win for everybody. But I'm really excited to see him, when the season starts. I'm pretty sure he'll deliver in regards to assists, maybe notch a goal here and there. And I want to say this quickly, I'll turn it over to Dan. There was a time in which Leo Fernandez had to move in that number 10 position, due to injuries and stuff like that. We had to move stuff around. And Jake Areman, he's someone that can move around, in more central attacking mid position. So, because it is a long season. So if there's any injuries and you want to move him out that left wing back spot, there's no harm there or no worries there because he can operate as a number 10 as well. So you just have a player who's just really good in attack. And, like I said, I'm excited for this player to, get his debut in the opening game of the season for the Rowdies. And, I feel like only great things could come with him on your roster.
Yeah, everything you guys said and then is spot on from what I was seeing and how I feel. I think what really excites me the most is if you have Leo, Areman, and Guillen, and either your Ken or whatever, the interplay up that left flank is going to be quite crazy, and it's going to be quite deadly. So I think that being able to get all that talent, even if it's on a lopsided field in a way, is fantastic. On the right side, we'll get there. Nothing has really changed there, but if Harris is healthy, you have it on both sides. For the almost 10 years I've been watching this team, it sometimes feels one-dimensional and one side of the pitch only. Like, it's always like the attack always goes up the right side, and then that's it. If it doesn't work, it's just kind of long ball. Neil Collins has changed that a bit, but sometimes they fall back into that habit of just trying to force it up one flank. And I think this side, if with the addition of Areman, is more balanced, and there's so many different ways to move the ball up the pitch now that, not taking away from Leo, I just think that it's another weapon involved with Leo, and he doesn't, like we said, he doesn't have to track back now if he indeed does play in a 3-4-3.
I want to say quickly, James, there were times in which, Leo Fernandez had to rely on Aaron Guillen, making that overlapping run. But now, Leo has Areman and Aaron Guillen as options on that overlapping run or on the inside of him, so he has two more options to get the ball to Duba, Seba, Deon Harris crashing that back post. It's a win overall with him on your side. It's deadly, as Dan said, yeah.
Yeah, at this point, I'm kind of thinking of there's been a lot of talk with Manchester City recently in the way that they use their fullbacks, because Pep Guardiola is one of the most known tinkerers in the world, and there's a lot of overlapping, but also something that has come out of this recently has been there's a lot of underlapping, and I feel like that's something that we could see with both Jake Areman and Leo Fernandez on the left wing, and Aaron Guillen sitting behind them, if that's the way that it shakes out. Either any of those players could end up being the one who gets all the way to the byline and then cuts the ball back for whoever's sitting behind them. So yeah, as you both have said, I think the left wing is looking very good here. But we have more players to cover, so let's move on to our next player, and that is number 15 on the roster, defender Timmy Mel. And Timmy was signed from Loudoun United. Loudoun United are DC United's second team. So DC United in MLS, Loudoun United in the USL Championship. And I believe this will be their last year in the USL Championship as they transfer that team over to the MLS Next Pro division. And, they were a terrible team, unfortunately. It's mostly, players from their academy and then a couple of guys who are very recently out of college. So it's not necessarily going to be the best team in the league, whether that's last year or probably this year again. And it's really, I think, though, the other thing that you could say about that is as a defender or if you're a goalkeeper, you're going to be getting a lot of reps. You're going to be getting a lot of people attacking you at the back because there's probably not a big, strong wall sitting in front of you like there is for, say, the Rowdies defense or the Rowdies goalkeeper. So Timmy Mel might be able to, take all that experience and turn it on to, a good season. And that's obviously what we're hoping for here at the back. So, Dan, you have seen him most recently in terms of the USF game. And we have only seen him from last year when he was playing at the terrible team. And let me know what you thought of this, this past game. It's obviously not much to go by. And then that in coordination with everything that we've seen so far.
I sat down when he, shortly after he was announced and tried to find some good things while watching Loudoun, and they're just so bad that I was not going to judge the signing on any of those performances. I think, like I said earlier about the USF game, I think he needs time to settle. He's fairly young. I think he was more brought into sub either Gian or Scarlett more than be the cornerstone of his defense. So I don't know if that's in his head a little bit too. But I think there's potential there. I think Neil's going to have to find ways to get that out of him in training and get him the confidence to actually anchor our back line. But when the signing first happened, we still were under the assumption Lasso was here. So I liked it. I thought it was a great depth signing. But now I am still on the sign another center back wagon because we definitely still need some depth. But I don't know if any of you guys listened to the Coach's Voice interview with Neil on the Twitter Spaces. The one thing Neil very much, as you guys know, is very cards close to his chest, doesn't reveal anything, even on a Twitter space with the rest of to everybody. But the one thing he said that stuck out, and I've brought up a few times on Twitter as well, is we have the USL has small rosters, and the main thing here is versatility. And I think Timmy and Antley and a lot of these guys there'll be combinations we can do because this is a very versatile roster. And I think when we get to one of the other players down the line that's on loan, versatility is a reason why Jordan Adebayo Smith went out on loan and this Lacava came in. I think that versatility is thing, and I think we're going to have to use some of that to get creative defensively. I think you can maybe even argue a back four and put Lawrence White back there to help shore it up. But versatility is going to be the key here on that back line.
Yeah, that's true. Lawrence White, I've said this when we were talking about him last year, he was originally signed from Atlanta United in MLS where, they had some of the best midfielders in the league. So where was he playing? He was mostly on the back line. So that's something that we should definitely keep in mind. But Leo, tell me, we've obviously seen about the same amount of Timmy Mel, watching the games against Loudoun United. And as Dan just said, there's really not too much that you can judge from there. But based on what you have seen and based on what you have read, probably more so, how did you feel about this signing? What do you think he's going to play? What role do you think he's going to play in the upcoming season?
I think for Mel, I feel like he needs to get. I think what will more affect him more is his mentality more than his physical side of the game, because you're jumping from the worst placed team in USL to the best placed team in USL. That's a big jump.
Yep.
Usually you go from a mediocre team, a mid-table team, to then the top team. But he just made that big jump already. And what's also tough for him is that he was he he was a captain of that team. But again, like you said, James, there was a lot of young kids or kids just out of college. So maybe by default, he was the oldest kid there. So he had to be captain. I'm not sure, but he does have that leadership experience that he could bring to the back line, whether he starts or not, whether he, leads in regards, on the bench or in training. He does have that experience of wearing the armband for a USL team. Even if they were the last place team, they were, at the end of the day, they're still our USL team. So that's a pros towards Timmy Mel. But I think another pro is that his head coach was a former center back. So if it's anyone that could get the best out of his defensive game is his head coach. That's someone who could really take his game to another level, bring him right up to pace with how the Rowdies play defensively and also offensively, because we've seen many times how the play loves to start from the back. You see Areman, Jordan Scarlett, Forsyth, so give balls to Lewis Hilton or any midfielders are open, or maybe even give a long ball to one of your attacking options. So I feel like for Timmy Mel, he's gonna have to learn to adapt to play with his team quickly, and it shouldn't be too hard because he has all the right players around him to make him fit in quickly. You talk about Lewis Hilton, who's someone that shores up the back line, so he provides extra protection in regards to you defending your goal. But if you're trying to attack, you just give him a simple 5 to 6 yard pass to him, and your job is done. Or if you want to give a long ball, you have wingers who could beat players on pace in regards to Dayon Harris. So he has the options there to improve his game and maybe be a possible starter later in the season. But overall, I think it's a solid signing, and I just hope he gets up to pace quickly.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind with what you just mentioned there, Loudoun United being the worst place team in the league, they were a reserve team to an MLS team. So all of their best players are going to be with the MLS side, and they're even going to be sitting on the bench, for DC United most days out of the week. If you look back to other reserve teams that the Rowdies have had to play against, New York Red Bulls too, they actually used to be one of the better teams in this league, but recently they have not been quite up to that level. A player that we did sign from them was Jordan Scarlett, and everybody's seen what he's turned into, quite possibly under the tutelage of Neil Collins. And Neil Collins being such a high-level center back in his own career, as you said, maybe that is something to keep in mind for Timmy Mel. But we are going to move on to the next player. We have 2 more new signings to get through here, and they are both forwards. At least we think they're forwards. So the first one here is actually a player who we have signed on loan from New York Red Bulls 2, someone that Dan was hinting at, and that is Jake Lacava, a player who last year I was wrong on a couple occasions. When we were previewing games against the New York Red Bulls, I expected him to be someone who was maybe he dribbled himself into oblivion and then ended up losing the ball for his team. Maybe it was something where, his level just wasn't what they needed. And then he actually scored on us once or twice. So he showed it to me. But Jake Lacava, I think, is a pretty good signing. And Leo, we will have a good player on our hands as far as I can guess.
Yeah, and he looks like an exciting player too. He's only 21 years old, has 2 professional seasons already on his resume. So he looks like an exciting player to me. And as Dan was saying, in regards to preseason games, especially that want to get to USF, where he looks exciting, he's eager, wants to get involved in the play. I feel like from what we've seen last year with New York Red Bulls too, he was someone that always asked for the ball. Maybe didn't make the best decisions, probably due to his inexperience, but he was someone that was always eager to get the ball at his feet, no matter what. He's just someone that really enjoys the game. That's someone you always want to have on your team. And again, just another solid option, whether he starts as a rotational player or someone just gets subbed on, looking for that spark you need if a game's 0-0 or you're looking for a goal, he can provide that spark. Something that, Matt Serbo can really provide for you. Maybe Jake Lacava is a different story. But from what I see from last season, obviously the New York Red Bulls too, they were very, very young, but he was one of the bright spots within that team, and they earned him an MLS contract. So, with all that being said, I'm excited for him. Haven't seen too much of him, but from what Dan said, from what Neil has described this kind of player too as a number 10, I feel like it's a great signing, and it's exciting signing as well.
Yeah, I'm driving the Jake Lacava hype train right now. So I'll he's been, everything I've heard is he's been very lively in training. At USF, the half hour he played, he, like you said, maybe he's a little too brave in his decision making. But sometimes I think our team, who is pretty old on in terms of roster age, could use that. I think maybe a little young recklessness might not be a bad thing. And unleashing that would be good because it's new ideas, it's new vision, and some new energy. I think that he will prove to be a big part of this team this year. I wish it wasn't a loan. I wish we could bring him here for an extended period of time, but who knows how the MLS contract will work. I mean, if he has a great year like I'm hoping, then he won't stay here very long anyway. But a 21-year-old talent like his will only be an asset.
One thing I will say is that with Jake Lacava is that we talked about his decision making, but we got to remember that with that team, as I said, they were pretty young, so maybe they weren't right on the same page because of the inexperience. But if you have, Dos Santos has been in the league for a while, Seba Gonzalez has been in the league for a while, Leo Fernandez has been in the league for a while. Those people can be looking for type of runs that you were trying to produce in New York Red Bulls too that didn't really, get exactly what you wanted out of it. But this time, maybe that reckless or not good decision making that he was doing could finally turn something good for the Rowdies.
The other thing to say about that, too, is you have to remember, looking back on what last season was for them, again, it's a bunch of academy kids, but the New York Red Bulls team in MLS, they play a very specific style, and that is go, go, go. They are putting you under pressure immediately. If you have the ball, they're trying to win it back, they are trying to transition into their attack as quickly as possible in those positions. And then, out of the back, they'll build it a little differently. But that their first thought is to try and win the ball in high positions of the field and then try to score as quickly as possible. So that might have just been Jake Lacava's MO on that team is if you get the ball, you go at them as fast as possible. So maybe in a different environment, he will have something to work with there that isn't quite so fast as 1,000 miles an hour. But we have one more player to talk about here on our new signings list, at least for the time being. We will see if any more are announced before the league season actually starts. But 22 is his number on the roster. It is forward Kyle Gregg. And as far as I know, it's Greg. It might be Grieg. It might be Greg. I don't know. But he was signed from Louisville City. He is a veteran forward who has been in this league for a very long time. And, he's got the pedigree that comes with that veteran presence. And I think that, that's probably something that we need in a forward position, especially when we were looking at, several months over the course of last year where one or two players are down, and then all of a sudden we're in trouble. So, Dan, I will turn it back over to you to bring me your 10 years of experience watching Kyle Grieg, at least from the Rowdies side.
I think to borrow a hockey term, he's very much a locker room guy, is that veteran presence, like you said. I think also Neil looked at last season and when we lost Dos Santos, we lost scoring, and I think you bring in like Kyle Gregg as that replacement for Dos Santos if anything terrible happens, or just to spell him late in games. You can have two big bodies up front. Having two big bodies up there and that veteran scoring presence changes or opens up so many tactical doors, either late in games or down the stretch when you need to give some of these guys a rest. So options, we have plenty of options all around. But I think it's more of that veteran presence as well in the locker room. Not that we need a lot, because this team has had a lot of success and has a bunch of games under their belt, but I think it's just yet another piece. I know Neil likes to have a solid locker room and definitely likes to have options. So I think it's a solid signing. He scores goals. I mean, what more do you want out of a big number 9, really?
Yeah, y'all both used the word veteran. And last time we signed a veteran, he happened to be one of our best players last season, Dos Santos. Although he might not be on the same caliber as he is a good insurance policy. We do know Dos Santos has injury problems last season, or if Seba Gonzalez, hopefully not, but if he has injury problems last season, or if there's any strikers who aren't really in form, why don't you bring on that big number 9 guy that you signed in the offseason? That he's a veteran, he knows the league very well. Someone that can give you goals, kind of a like for like change in regards to being that power forward, that big number 9 in the box, that target man. So it's another solid signing in regards to expanding your roster, having more depth in your squad. You can never go wrong with having depth in your squad because it is a long season. We have seen times where there were too much injuries and the Rowdies couldn't really cope with it, and it did cost them points. but ultimately made up for it at the end of the season. But, this time around, I feel like they're already preparing for that in case, things do get that bad. But, in regards to Greg, I do think it's a solid signing and someone you could bring off the bench if you need a goal as well. Or just, want to give Duba or Saba a rest, you bring him off the bench as well, or even start him. So I think it's a great signing overall.
And one more thing to note, if anyone is unaware of where we got Lucky Mkosana, he was also signed from Louisville City. So, maybe there's something there when we have, the super sub role. Lucky Mkosana obviously plays that to a T, but maybe he's getting to a point where he can't, step in for every game himself. Maybe he just goes off with an injury at some point and we need somebody else to do the super sub role. And if that's the case, hey, got another Louisville City guy to step in and do that. Really quickly, I want to bring up that, we have the roster that we have right now is all of the players from last season, minus a couple. Obviously, those who left were Evan Loro, Forrest Lasso, Matt Serbel out on loan, Jordan Adebayo-Smith out on loan, Ian McGrain, Jordan Doherty, and Zach Steinberger. Now, we've brought in these players that we've just talked about, and other than that, that is the roster that we're dealing with until we have any more signings, if those are made. At this point, we could probably use a couple more here and there to fill in holes. Dan, you are, I think, one of the most vocal people on Twitter talking about, what places we might need somebody to step in here and there. I think, obviously, a third goalkeeper is someone that everybody will point to because you definitely need 3 over the course of a whole season. But who else or what other positions do you think might need to be filled before we get into this, before we get this thing rolling?
Definitely a center back, which is the one thing I keep hounding the team for. Is there any news on a center back? But the market's a bit rough. So it's just if they can find somebody that fits. I think looking at combinations, versatility again is key. I think you can have like 2 or 3, like White can fill in at left wing back. You have Leo, you have Areman. Dalgard can even play on either wing. You have Harris on the right. Lacava played on the right against USF. There's plenty of options. I would probably want maybe one more one more 10, because Jan Ecker's there. Leo could play it. But I think defense is more, the center back is my main priority. I think for a third keeper, we won't sign anybody. I don't see too many veterans that are going to want to play third string keeper on a team with 2 others. So it'll probably be an academy kid more. I can almost guarantee that one. But center back, I think the main thing looking at the schedule is it was April. And now you have an Open Cup game in there. And it's like so many games, which this early in the season, having that many games is an injury risk, trying to find rotation. To me, getting at least one more, I would prefer 2 more center backs or some sort of defenders in there to help this team out would be it. Sure, we might need another midfielder or 2, but please sign a center back. That's all I'm begging for.
Yeah, I like that, over the course of these preseason games, we've seen a couple of names step in there. A couple were, like you said, academy kids. In this case, not in net, but yeah, there are options there. And then another one was Brandon Terweg, who, again, for people who missed previous coverage of him or previous coverage where we talked about him briefly, he was at Southern Methodist University, which is a pretty good college if you're talking about the men's soccer side. He was also an FC Dallas Academy player. So, they've obviously got one of the best academies in the United States. So there is a certain pedigree, of course, coming out of college. That's, this is a big step, even if you're coming from a very good school. This is going to be a big step into the pros here. And maybe he's that player, maybe he's not. I do think that he has some versatility to him there. But Leo, where do you see things? What is your wish for the rest of this roster?
Well, my only wish is the same as Dan's. I really want another center back. I know we got in Timmy Mel, but I feel like he's, at least I would imagine, he's not really ready to be that starting center back to take that throne from Forrest Lasso that he is vacant now because he left. But I don't think he's ready. I do think we need another center back because you could put Connor Antley there, you could put Lawrence White there because that's what he was originally supposed to be in the first place. But I feel like even though Deon Harris as Dan said earlier, he looks like he's playing on a whole other level. You can still have Connor Antley as another option on their right wing back role. And if you take that away, you only have a Dalgard, but you got to remember Dalgard is also someone to have on the left side of the field as well. So you also kind of limit your options on the wing back roles. And we've seen times last season where, that was a problem in regards to injuries, players, stepping out and stuff like that. So I feel like another center back helps you in other positions as well, helps you as a whole. That's something I really want. And if we can't get a center back, at least bring in another left or right wing back as an insurance policy, maybe a young kid on loan or, something like that, or an experienced player, a veteran player who could give you that kind of Max Lacava feeling of, playing in whenever someone's injured, getting subbed in, or some kind of rotational player. I feel like that'll help a lot. But mainly, center back, if we can't get that, then try to get someone who could help for coverage on the wing back roles if Connor Antley is going to stay in the back three.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. That was a bad journalism on my part that I left out Max Lacava out of the players that we lost. But yeah, Dan, one more quick question for you, and then we're going to get into the absolute best part of this episode, as far as I'm aware, the lineup predictor challenge. But really quickly, Dan, if they don't sign a center back, do you think that there's a possibility that Neil will switch it up and just go with a back four?
I haven't seen it in preseason, but that doesn't mean much. I would like to think so. I don't know if it would come in the first match or two. I think he will try different combinations and see who works, and if it still doesn't work, then switch to a back four. But I think seeing a 3-4-3 in preseason was something I didn't think I would see this year either. But so I think Neil has it in the back of his mind and isn't afraid to switch things up. He did it. It was a small tactical change that that you pointed, I think, in one of the post or pre matches about keeping Hilton a little further back during that 3-game losing streak. A little tactical tweak of moving Hilton back changed everything. We went on that record, run. So I don't think Neil is ever completely satisfied or is ever set on a game plan or tactical or any tactics or anything or system. I think he has an idea and then will tinker until it's working and then make the adjustments as necessary. So I think at some point we might have to see a back four unless he finds the best back three combination, which I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I gotcha. So that's that's all stuff to keep an eye out on. As you said, he's not really beholden to anything, but he does have his preferences. And that will take us into what should be the title for this episode, the Lineup Predictor Challenge. I think that it is, that's probably the most fun part of soccer is to just, get to play the mental games of, these are the players that I think should be playing. And these are the players that I think should be called up if you're looking at the national team and that kind of stuff. I know that I keep little notes of all the players that I wish, this team or that team would sign or call up when I'm bored at work. But we are not doing this for work. We are doing this because if we're wrong, then Neil Collins is out. I'm just kidding, of course. But I'm going to go really quickly here, and I'm going to get through mine. I don't want to get too deep into the details and bog us down before we get to Leo and Dan for their predictions. But I am going to go, again, this is all based off the roster that we have right now. My starting 11 for the, for the first game, I suppose it would be. It'll be Raiko Rosarena in net, Aaron Guillen as the left defender, Jordan Scarlett as the central defender, Connor Antley as the right defender. Then in the midfield, it will be Jake Areman as the left wing back, Lawrence Wyke and Lewis Hilton in the middle, with Dayon Harris as the right wing back. And up top, I am predicting Leo Fernandez, Steven Dos Santos, and Sebastian Guenzati as the up front three. So that will be a 3-4-3 lineup if I am correct. And I am saying that because I believe Jordan Scarlett is, adept at carrying the ball forward, which is something that Neil Collins asks of his right and his left and right defenders, while the center defender kind of stays back a little more. But I think that Connor Antley is better at it than Jordan Scarlett. If Jordan Scarlett can step in, he's obviously got the veteran presence on this team. He has, that ability to play with everyone out here and everybody knows him. I think that he can step into the central defense role, hopefully take over for Forrest Lasso, and also become an all-league selection, much like he was 2 years ago. And if that allows Connor Antley to play in a role where he can still get forward and maybe do some overlapping and carry the ball forward like we all saw he was capable of last year when he played at right wing back quite frequently, I think that allows everybody to play to their strengths a little bit more than if we put them in different spots. And that is my position for starting 11, with Jake Areman again as the left wing back, so that Leo Fernandez can step up and play in that attacking role, because we saw him do pretty well there. Leo, I will give it over to you now to go through your starting 11 and tell us why you are right and Neil Collins better go with it.
James, mine's very similar to yours. I'm going with the 3-4-3. I think Ryko to start the season wins that goalkeeping battle between him and Cochran. I feel like it'll be tough, but Neil put Ryko back there. My back three, I have Aaron Guillen as my left center back, Timmy Mel as my center back, and then Jordan Scar as my right back. And in regards to the four midfielders, I have Areman on the left wing back, Hilton and White in that center mid position, and then Connor Antley on the right. And up top, I feel like, he's going to put Leo Fernandez on the left wing, Dos Santos up top, and Gonzalez on the right side of the forwards position. And I know we were kind of talking about, Mel, is he ready or not? We should make another center back signing. But from what I look at it, in regards to the first game, is that I kind of do see Hilton. Whenever we're defending, I do see Hilton kind of transition to a back forward to where he does help out Mel a lot more. And I feel like the reason Mel will start is because he does have that leadership experience. You can say the same for Cochran if he starts in that goalkeeping position, but I feel like he's going to want someone who has that center back experience of being in the back three, being in the back four. And I think Timmy Mel checks that boxes at least for the first game. And then we talked about Deon Harris was lighting up in preseason form. But one thing I noticed with Neil was that players who do good coming off the bench or have good good games, he tends to not really start them right away. He kind of wants like a reaction or some kind of, something to ignite within them to, earn that starting spot. We've seen that last season with Jan Ecker, who started out the season injured, got subbed down a couple of games, and he had that key game against Charlotte Independence where, as James and I always talk about, where he bodied Christian Fuchs. And from there now, he just started, every single game throughout the season. He got a goal in the postseason. And Sebastian Dalgard, too, is someone who started, lost his spot to Connor Antley, and then had to fight his way back, started giving assists, started scoring goals, and then he got his spot back in the lineup. So that's why I see something similar with Deon Harris. I feel like he will get subbed on, and if things, don't go as planned, you sub out Timmy Mel, put Connor Antley back there, and you put in Deon Harris as that right wing back role, and maybe, you ignite something out of him to prove to Neil Collins that he should be the starting position on the right wing back role. So that's why I think I'm right and why Neil Collins should listen to me.
Nice. All right. Well, we have two so far. There's a slight bit of difference, but not all that different overall. Dan, you are the last one to go here, and I am interested to see if your starting 11 is all that different from ours. And again, whether or not we need to listen to, or we need to make sure that Neil Collins is listening to you.
Mine isn't very much different actually from yours, James. I think the only difference was the 10. I have Lacava in there, but it's a 3-4-3 as well, with the Rosarena, Guillen, Scarlett, and Antley. Hilton, and then Areman, Lacava, Harris, and then Leo, Dos Santos, and Seba up top. I think, as I mentioned earlier, as everybody's mentioned about Connor Antley going forward, I think he's a better distributor of the ball than Scarlett as well, and I think he can create some openings, some switches across the field to open up. But I think with Antley's ability to carry the ball forward as well, you have Harris, you have Lacava still, and Hilton, who can also ping the ball around the field. I think you open up so many different more avenues of attack, and I think the point of attack can change quickly with these guys. I think that Timmy Mel is just, the distribution needs a little work as well, but again, he needs to settle, working to figure out everybody. It's a whole new team in front of him, so I get that. So I think Scarlett knows a lot of people's runs. He's made a lot of them on the right hand side. You also have Guillen to the left, who can, everything will start back there. But I think having Lacava in the 10 is just gonna happen, and I think it's gonna happen early just to see that energy. and see how that works. And I think his speed and creativity, along with Harris and Areman to his left and right, will cause a lot of problems in a team like Birmingham in that first game.
Well, there you have it, folks. Either of these three options will be the one Neil Collins goes with, or again, we toss him out the city. But yeah, that is going to be our lineup predictor challenge here. And if anybody wants to help us keep track of that, I'm sure that we will, we will mark that down and compare it with the opening week when we actually get out there coming up here. But we are going to move forward here. Also, if you do have your own lineup, of course, please feel free to leave that back on our Twitter in response to this. We don't want to say that you're wrong, but if you're wrong, that's because you didn't pick what we picked. But yeah, we are going to now move into our last segment. One more thing. And just very briefly want to say, of course, liking and subscribing to the podcast is free, and we appreciate when you do that. It helps us out a lot. But if you do think that maybe you need some new threads coming up this year, you can always support this podcast a little more by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com and checking out all of the designs that we have cooked up there. The link will be in the description, and we have a promo code for anybody listening that is COYR for 10% off. COYR for Come On You Rowdies. And we've got a lot of cool stuff there that our producer Eureka has designed. It's a lot of new stuff pretty frequently too. So that I wanted to bring up. And next week is our first preview of a game for the upcoming season. Everybody get hyped for that. Please do not miss it. And the last thing I want to say, please go back and listen to all the awesome interviews that we did as part of our history series. If you have any feedback, please let us know. I think that we got on some incredible people to tell us some really cool anecdotes, but not just anecdotes about what it was like to be on the team, what it was like to be behind the scenes and what it was like to be as a writer in some cases. So I had a lot of fun doing it. Like I said, please give us any feedback you have. And so with that all said, please, everyone, we appreciate everything you've done getting through this podcast so far. Just get back to us on Twitter, and we will be happy to interact with you there over the lineup and anything else you've got. Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you if you've got anything you want to ask before we head out into our outro here.
Not really want to ask. I just want to say, the history bit was absolutely fantastic. Getting Perry Vanderbeck, great get. I love it. I think Rowdy's history is something that is important to most of us, and keeping it going for as long as we can. If you guys want an NASL primer, there's a book called Rock and Roll Soccer. If you guys have read it, yeah, that's a great one. But those were the good old days. I mean, that's one of our stars. So thank you guys for doing that. Great work. I love it. But that's it. And thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun, guys. I appreciate it.
Good. I'm so happy that we were able to get you on because, I've listened to the unused subs for a couple of years now, and again, as I said, you were all so nice to meet and hang out with. So it was really cool to be able to do that on this podcast as well. But thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week. Please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And Dan, if you can, please also take some time to plug your stuff. I know that you have obviously unsubs and you're working on Cathedral. Go through all that for everybody for us.
I mean, I couldn't even tell you. I think it's at Unused Subs Pod on Twitter. Matt does most of it, but I think that's at Unused Subs Pod. Sorry, like I said, I don't tweet very much from it, but follow them for that. I've been trying to do the Cathedral clothing. It's mostly me, and then I ramble off some things to my partner, who then sits on her iPad and draws a design and throws it up on the internet. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get done this season since she's having to take the bar in July. She graduates law school in May and then has to take the bar in July. So it depends how much I pester her to actually do it. But I'm going to try to keep it going. And it's usually just silly jokes and silly nicknames, and then we throw it on a T-shirt. But it's just something, something fun that's not really I try to donate the money somewhere or do something that it's not any money making enterprise. It's just something for us to have some fun with. But yes, that's it. I mean, thank you guys. Like, I know you said you've been listening to us. We literally just, Matt and I decided to do this stuff because nobody else was covering it. And the fact that you guys are now on the scene is so nice. It's so nice to have other people covering this team in a different angle. I think the more voices around the Rowdies for everybody is the best.
Yeah, that's the way that I look at it. And we will also include a link to all of that in the description for this episode. If you want to, if people want to follow you, Dan, where can they interact with you specifically?
It's at Endonino, Endonino. I apologize now because it will go from soccer, Roma, Rowdies, Liverpool, to any random stuff, to space, to politics. I apologize if you follow me. It is all over the map, but there will be Rowdies nuggets of news in there, so hang with me.
I think everybody will appreciate everything that comes along with that. But if you want to follow me and interact with me, I am at RBLR James K. And Leo, what about you? Where can they get at you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at I'm Leo Santos _. So yeah, feel free to find me there. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. We do have some big news, some breaking news in regards to the RBLR podcast. We just launched the Bandits pod. So it's a new team competing in the what is it, like a kind of like a second division football league? Or I'm still confused on how all that works.
Well, it's the United States Football League.
Yeah,
I think.
I always try to put stuff in like soccer terms, and I still get confused with that because it was like a whole draft and stuff like that. I still get confused. So producing
it's
something like a second
league
division.
now.
But yeah. But yeah, they compete in the USFL, the United is it United States Football League? That's what they call it. Yeah. What, probably took them 2 minutes to come up with that name, but they compete in the United States Football League. We are covering it as part of our coverage here at RBLR, but you can also find coverage for the Rowdies as we do here, and also the Bucks to Lightning the Rays. So all that you can find in the same feed that you find this episode, and wherever and whichever podcast platform you use to listen to us. The Bandits pod will also be there. And again, don't forget, we're available on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and all other major podcast platforms. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. And once again, thank you, Dan, for coming on for the show today. It was really fun. The season's just right around the corner. I still feel like it was 3 weeks ago when the season just concluded in that painful USL Championship defeat. But it's so fascinating how time flies. But with all that being said, thank you again, Dan. And James, do you have anything you want to say before we get out of here?
All I have to say now is come on, you Rowdies.
Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.